Hello and welcome back to Exothermic Plays Games. I'm Exothermic, and the date today is Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024. I've been doing a daily countdown of my 366 favorite video games of all time, and coming in at number 29 is Thomas Was Alone. If you've been following along on my channel for a while, you know a few things about me, and some of you may feel you've come to know me as a person. You know I'm 30 years old and married. You know I've played a lot of Final Fantasy games. You know we have a dog and a cat, and they're amazing, and have you seen Ike? So floofy. But one thing you absolutely positively know for sure from even just the very first video I ever made is that I love puzzle games. The first video I made was for a puzzle game called Block Dude. You move little blocks around so that you can navigate to little goals. Well, in today's game, which is my absolute favorite puzzle game ever made, at least in the traditional sense that it is purely a puzzle game and not some other game that does just happen to contain puzzles, you move little blocks around so that you can navigate to little goals. Thomas Was Alone is simultaneously not only the most ingenious puzzle game I've ever played, it's also my absolute favorite example of how video games as a medium can tell a story in a way that absolutely nothing else can. Thomas is, I suppose, the protagonist. He's this little red rectangle. This isn't just some artistic license and utilizing minimalism to make a point, though it is utilizing minimalism to make a point. I mean, it's right there. He is, in fact, a little red rectangle. That's literal. He's not remarkable in any way, shape, or form. His jump is pretty average, as is his height, and everything else about him. The really fun thing here, actually, is that all of the heroes of this game are different colored little rectangles. There's Chris, a little orange rectangle that doesn't jump well and is angry about his height and lack of athletic prowess. There's John, a very thin, tall, yellow rectangle whose ego reaches as high as he does. And then you have Claire, a large blue square. She can hardly jump at all and is pretty down on herself at first about it. The next person to join the group is Laura, a flat pink rectangle who also can't jump much and is very nervous about social interaction because of something that makes her weird and different. Next up is James, a green rectangle that much resembles Thomas and also has anxiety about being weird and different because he's real quirky. We'll get to that. Lastly is Sarah. She's purple and very, very tiny, but has one of the most envious abilities of them all. The game follows Thomas and friends. No, wait, scratch that! I didn't mean it, Mattel! The game follows Thomas and his awkward ragtag group of rectangles as they move about their world. At the start of each section of the game, there's text narration about some event that had happened that was clearly historic and groundbreaking. The voiceover narration done by Danny Wallace is great, and he won a well-deserved BAFTA for it. He echoes the thoughts of these rectangles, layering them on one character at a time, with each section of levels moving on to a new character's thoughts as kind of the character that we follow. This, along with your platforming, is how the game weaves a narrative about each of these characters struggling with their own existence and issues, and coming to terms with what makes each of them remarkable. Chris, for example, has to deal with his jealousy of others, and comes to find his own strength in being able to fit into smaller areas than everyone else. John, who always thinks himself the absolute star of the show, is humbled later on by Sarah with her ability to double jump Man, the double jump is so good, allowing her to reach heights that even he cannot attain.
Where did they come from, anyway? John inhaled the air of the open space, and it smelled of awesome.
Claire, who struggles a lot with her size, discovers that she is the only one among them that can float in water, providing safe passage for the rest of the crew. She deems this her superpower and has a very cute narrative about her exploits as a superhero. And really, Claire is my favorite. I'm a big fan of Claire. She's awesome.
Spikes? That was new. Claire avoided them. She decided they were most likely her kryptonite. Not the rubbish red kryptonite either, the proper radioactive green stuff.
Laura, who struggles so much with social interaction because she's a trampoline. Yep, finds love when Chris is smitten at first sight. James and Sarah aren't originally part of the crew, actually, but become accepted within them as they join much later in the story. This plays into James's insecurities because of how different he is. You see, gravity's inverted for him. He runs on the ceilings and jumps towards the floor. So, that's pretty different. Sarah is the only one that doesn't really have an internal personal journey, instead pushing the narrative further for everyone else being really kind of the only one with an external driving force for her as a character. Utilizing everyone's different strengths, controlling one character at a time to help set up for everybody else, such as navigating to switches, creating stairs for people that don't jump well, or transporting them to safety across water or other hazardous areas that not everyone can cross, is a ton of fun and some great puzzling. The thing that makes this game so great, however, is definitely these stories, which have tons of nuance and depth, with one of the most relatable casts of characters in any game I have ever played, despite them literally just being rectangles. Over time, you actually figure out that each of these characters are rogue AI in a computer system, and the pixel cloud that you occasionally run into as like an antagonist threat is basically the program is trying to contain you. Where Sarah comes into this story is that she had another rectangle friend that appears to have maybe died after searching for what she calls the Fountain of All Knowledge. It contains all known information in the world and can bring you true enlightenment, or at least so she says. It's the internet. Your AI looking to escape into the internet. Look, I'm not saying you're Ultron, but we don't know what happens after you get out of there. Because spoiler, you do make it. You get out of there. You escape, and then it's just a total cliffhanger ending that was pretty frustrating. Which is the only reason this game isn't even higher on the ranking. Seriously, the cutscene for the end of the game was so abrupt, I thought I accidentally skipped the rest of it. Like maybe I hit a button or something, and when I googled what the rest of the ending was, I learned that everyone else also thought they just skipped the end of it, and that really was just the ending. It just done. But really, we're talking about very small percentage points here. Despite being visually one of the least artistically skilled games I've ever played, Thomas Was Alone is one of the most artistic games I've ever played. The emotional connection I formed with these little rectangles is truly special, as the mechanics of the game and the stories that you're hearing from the narration, and even just the way it is represented in the most basic visual form you can possibly imagine, all melds together into this amazing experience that I'll carry with me forever. Join me tomorrow as I talk about my 28th favorite game, where I finally talk about my favorite Pokemon title.